Welcome back to the channel and welcome to the unit. This is the great unveiling, the massive discovery, exploratory mission of this place. And it's the first time in my entire life this has been on my list of goals and dreams to have somewhere with all my favourite stuff, bikes, history, medals, awards, just stuff that's been highlighted in my career and that I never want to forget. And now it's in one place and I'm going to show you. I've been working on this quite tirelessly actually, while doing a lot of other stuff. This is going to be really cool. We're going to do a full tour of this space. Do a quick spin, Ben. Very nice, Ben. It's going to be sick. So, I'm going to dive right in because there's a lot to talk about, a lot of history and a lot of stories. Workbench. I've never had a workbench. Before kind of getting this unit sorted out, I lived in an apartment and I had a little room that was called the apartment garage, which was everything in my sphere of bike influence in between four walls that didn't really work. I never had a workbench. The table was for storage, and now I've built this. Thanks to Silverline, I've got really cool tools. Tools I'm not going to use a lot, like an offhand bench grinder, a pillar drill. I mean, they might not get used for quite some time, but they look the business. I've got a sponsor that do power tools, so I now own power tools. A full muck off shelf with all the muck off products. This being my favourite, waterless bike wash, because there's no hose inside this place, which is great. That's very cool. Loads of frames up top. We'll get to them in a minute because there's some cool stories. The back wall, the Silverline back wall with everything from files to screwdrivers to Allen keys, full wrench set, bench vise, compressor. Never had one of them. That's going to be handy for getting tubeless tyres on the rim. That's actually what it's going to be handy for. A Red Bull fridge, as you can see here. Now, I'm actually on this fridge. Don't know if you can see. Move that drill out of the way. So Red Bull made me this fridge and got it wrapped in Frames of Mind. Frames of Mind was the big video I did, and I'm excited. In 2020 this year I'm doing another big video project. That was to remember that. So now I'm on a fridge, which is a strange one. I wish I could go back to my school and tell my head teacher, look, I made it, I'm on a fridge. Maybe one day. So moving on, the frame, we'll get to the frames. There's more stuff here, like lots of parts, 2 pit bikes. The pit bike track. The pit bike track is big news for 2020. That's the muddy one. This one is still dry, there's no fuel in the tank. It's brand new, and for Christmas my girlfriend got me a Jones 69 front board. So it's got decals, it's got graphics. Thank you, Beck, she sat there with the moose the dog. What else? Okay, this bike up here. That San Quentin, I want to keep that forever. That was the first Marin San Quentin I got. That bike is an aggressive hardtail. It's a bike, that's a lie. The frame is an aggressive hardtail, and it's the frame that I worked with Marin in developing, testing, designing. We brought it to market. It's been so well received. People love that bike. But that one, the reason it's on the wall is I had a massive hang up, a huge case on a jump, which you're watching now. So that literally bent my forks like a banana to the point that I can't get them out of the frame. So that frame and those forks are bonded for life. They're going to be up there for life. I can't even get them out. They're that bent. It's quite funny. Here we've got 2 full face helmets. My first TSG full face in the classic Red Bull Rom. Oh, it's quite dusty from woodwork. That's just a classic Red Bull design. Up to the really custom one I got with loads of colour. Like, it's the same custom design as this one, the Dirt Jump helmet. So I'm not actually riding for TSG helmets anymore. And actually, I've got a few new sponsors this year that I haven't revealed yet, and during this tour you might be able to see little sneak peeks of things, but I want to keep them on the wall. I had a great few years with TSG, the helmets were sick, and there they are, up there to be looked at. These boxes are full of bike parts, stuff. It's great to have space. I've never had so much space, it's amazing. These 2 frames, here we go, I'll get that one off the wall. This one, equipped with the Burn Crew sticker, was my first ever Marin enduro bike, the Attack Trail Carbon. I loved this bike. I took it to New Zealand, to Whistler, to France. This did a lot of jumps, a lot of miles, a lot of huge cases, a few tricks, and it's very cool. It doesn't have a shock in it, but it's very cool, and I want to keep that one as well because that was the first enduro bike I really used a lot. My previous bike sponsors, I had downhill bikes. Marin don't make a downhill bike, so that was kind of my avenue and inlet into trail bike, enduro bike riding, and ever since I've been hooked on it. So without this Marin relationship, I'd probably still be a dirt jump kid, which I once was, and now I've got quite a lot of bikes which we'll talk through. But first, these frames. This is like the story of dirt jumping for me. Slope style, dirt jump and slope style. So I've ridden for Marin for a few years, and we designed this frame, the Alcatraz. So that is the latest Alcatraz dirt jump frame. Again, it's quite dusty, but that's just life. This is the latest colourway. But before that, this was the first ever one that got brought to production. Up there, it was the blue, grey, black fade. I completely designed that frame with the engineers at Marin. Before I came on board, they didn't actually have a dirt jump bike. It was a requirement and necessity, because that's ultimately what I do, how I've become a professional mountain bike rider. They needed a bike like that, and we did it. And again, people love this bike. I love the new pink one. I'm sure soon there's going to be a new colourway. But in between all of that was this one. So, going back to frames of mind, Marin made me a really, really custom one, and it took its toll filming that. It's battered, it's bruised. All of these sort of marks here on the top tube were from me crashing. In the video, I jump and ride down a tree, and I was constantly bailing the bike into a tree. It took all the paint off, and I keep saying girlfriend Beck. Actually, I got engaged yesterday. Beck's now my fiance.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Which is very cool. She's got a ring on it, and that's a exact match to some of her nail varnish and paint you found. So while I was resting up, bruised, broken, Beck was repairing my frame for the next day of filming, which was hectic. But this will live with me forever, because that video was my first ever chance to be creative and come up with world's first tricks, and it was a massive success. And thanks to Marin, I had a really cool custom bike to remember it with. Please stay there. Right. People who have followed the channel for a while will know all of that, but something you probably won't have any idea about is this bike, and this frame specifically. So, years and years and years ago, I rode for Saracen Bikes, a UK bike company. They did make dirt jump bikes, but they didn't make a slopestyle bike. And very early on in my career, I think in 2012, I got invited to XGames in Munich, and slopestyle for the first ever time was in the XGames. It was very exciting. I saw the course drawings. It was berserk, massive. I'd never ridden a course like it. And Saracen very, very quickly made me a slopestyle frame. I had one. It was designed for that event, but Blake Sampson, who now works with GmbN, he got one as well. This was built purely for that event. I went there, I was so scared. I hit a step down that only a couple people hit. I've never ridden it before. I pedalled into it, backflipped it, shattered my collarbone on impact. It was a very cool weekend. But I wouldn't have been able to do it without this frame. Now, a few years ago, I was desperate for money, and I sold basically all of my bike stuff, including this frame, with the shock, with the cranks. I regretted it instantly, and a few months ago, I went on Pink Bike, I went on the internet, I trawled the forums, the buy and sell page, I was messaging people, and I actually located it with a person who still owned it. It had been sold a few times, sent them a message, and they actually offered it to sell it back to me. So I bought it back just so it can live on this wall, because that's very special. X Games was a massive part of my career. Flipping that step down, I don't know if it's got me a good name for myself or just crazy or whatever, but I got invited out to Canada because of it. So I flew to Canada with a still semi-broken collarbone, and competed in the biggest contest of my life then, Bear Claws Invitational, and did best trick at Crankworks Whistler. So without doing that backflip on that bike, without breaking my collarbone, I wouldn't be here. So there's a full story there. Oh, and the latest Mount Vision. This is another cool one, because Marin created this suspension platform, reactor play with nail, and it's on this bike. It looks mad. Again, it's so dusty. We need to sort this out. I just need to leave a Hoover running in here. But that's just a cool piece of story and history, because in the time I've worked with Marin and ridden for them, these bikes have come out and they're a lot of fun. They're incredibly playful, and I think they've sort of put the brand on the map for being innovative, creative, and coming up with bikes that are kind of against the grain and actually trying to break new ground. So that's very cool. This is the current bike range. So we've got the Marin San Quentin 3 in the Galaxy colourway. This was the dream hardtail, which I built over several episodes. It's got the coolest paintwork that Image Design Custom did. Very, very cool. The ultimate spec. I've never done anything like it. If you watch the series, I'll move on quick, but it's got a top cap with diamonds, sapphires, rubies in. It's got custom painted forks. These are some of very few of these cranks in the whole world. The Cane Creek E-Wings cranks in special, like jet fuel, purple, petrol, whatever. That bike is very, very special to me. It needs riding. It needs to go to a bike park. Next, the Rift Zone 3 medium. This is Beck's bike with the Cinderella sticker. Next up, Ben, your bike, the Hawk Hill 3. These two bikes are completely stock, out the box. Then it gets, again, a bit more custom. The Alpine Trail 7, which I took to Rampage to ride in Utah. I took to Hardline to bottle it. but it's got the push suspension system on. Very, that's my big rig, my downhill sort of bike. Then the dream trail bike that is outrageously spec'd. It's got Olin suspension, electric gears, Hope brakes. I bought a lot of stuff from Brink and it's still due an Olin suspension setup. My Alcatraz that the forks are missing of. That's food for thought. I'm building a new dirt jump bike today, in fact. And then the mini bike. That has seen as much YouTube's airtime as any of these bikes, I think. Front flips, 720s, and it's even got the custom orange chain rust to match the forks. As you can see, they are perfectly colour matched. The 16-inch version of the 26 legendary Alcatraz. So that's my bike range. We've got pit bikes, frames of many different moments of my career. I didn't offer you a Red Bull. Would you like one?
I'd love one, mate, yeah.
Okay.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers. Let's just go to the back wall. We've got trophies from a lot of events, checks. That was my first ever check, right? And a lot of people think that you take these to the bank. You actually don't. And I didn't try. I found out, thankfully, that it's not possible. You can't cash these at banks. That was from a four-cross race where I came fourth. I think it was at National Champs. And won £80 from Fox, and that wasn't even cash, it was to spend on their website, and I was so pumped. Probably like 14, getting £80 worth of free clothes. It was mind-bending. Farm Jam's one of my personal favourite comps. I've been there 3 times, it's every other year. It's a super cool event, like it's a jam format, so actually the riders in the competition judge it, and I've won it every time I've gone actually. Basically, that's the only comp I can say that for. I usually come mid-pack to last. But I've got a few first place. I won Swatch Rocket Air a couple of years ago. Colorado Freeride Festival. That was a big one. That was out in America. I couldn't believe I won that. I thought I wouldn't even qualify and I ended up winning. And that gave me a wild card. That was the wild card check to go to Crankworks Whistler, where I knocked myself clean out, so that was a good part of my life. And then but it's funny, these checks have still got like champagne on and mud. From when you celebrate, you get the champagne out, and it's funny, I always try and keep them a bit messy, because if we ever run out of alcohol back at home, you can always come and lick that. Heir to the Throne is a UK comp, which was always really cool. I hope they bring that back. These are the Farm Jam trophies. Wow. A tractor made of electrician wire. One of the Frew brothers is an electrician who runs Farm Jam competition, and he makes these. They're very cool. I keep saying everything's cool, but it is. It's a sick spot in here. I love it. The unit. I'm going to film a lot of videos in here. Spend a lot of time in here. It's sick. Thanks for filming, Ben.
Always.
Shout out to Silverline and Muck-Off mostly for delivering products specifically for this space. I mean, all my sponsors are here. Everything, the whole story's here. Just need to get that dartboard somewhere. Get it on the door. Yeah. Thank you to all of you legends for following the story, the curve, the progression to get wherever this is. I don't know, it's just basically like a storage facility, but it's kind of like everything that is Matt Jones in here, if that sounds cliche. Yeah, it's going to be a really cool year. I'm excited for 2020. I'm excited to be engaged. That's very cool. Moose, look how stoked Moose is. Like a fetus.
Aww.
And if you're still watching this video, these t-shirts will be discounted to 50% half price if you're watching them at helfare.com. Other than that, it's out for me. I've got to build a new jump bike because I start filming a Red Bull project tomorrow. Legends.